Two friends, Alan Dale and Jerry Carew, who grew up just a few streets apart in St. John's East End, have been separated by Canada's geography for 3 decades. They came together virtually during the pandemic to chat about like-minded interests. Alan lives in PEI and Jerry in Newfoundland. Thriving in remoteness has been a common theme for both of them during the pandemic. Gale Force Wins. The podcast is the result.
And welcome to another edition of Gale Force Wins. I'm Alan Dale, and with me as always, my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, Jerry Carew. How are you, Jerry?
I am doing exceptionally well. Reason being, this is one of our action-packed Gale Force Wins days. We've recorded a couple already. We actually, Maria, had a chat with a guy today who was from Gander and started to Pay It Forward 9/11. That was posted actually today, a little bonus episode. So it's been a really interesting day, and I'm looking forward to getting to know Maria French. What makes you tick? What makes you successful as an entrepreneur? All of those things are what make myself and Alan totally passionate about what it is we're doing. And we want to bring these stories to light to hopefully inspire someone.
Absolutely, Jerry. So many good things happening in and around Atlantic Canada, specifically in Newfoundland. Great entrepreneurial spirit there. Good thing about Newfoundland is everybody wants to see us succeed. They understand that a rising tide floats all boats, and we're certainly looking forward to hearing a success story right now. Maria, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, I am Maria French, and I am from St. John's. I was born and raised here and lived all of my life here. We have, I came from an average middle class family, but one of the things that I didn't know at the time was that I was probably the only girl in my school class growing up that had a working mom, worked outside the home, I should say. And I always thought that it was normal, and I didn't realize it till later that maybe I thought too little of something that was really interesting. So my mom had done a secretarial course and worked on the base, the American base for Pepperell here when she was young, and then decided to open a hair salon, which she did locally in town in Churchill Square. And then a couple of years later, opened a second one on Water Street. So for somebody in the 60s, that was a big leap. And so for us at home, I guess I never really thought of anything other than if you want to do it, you just do it. There's no thought to that. So when I went to university, did a sociology major, which is completely opposite of anything I thought that I would use in business. Found myself graduated from university, married with one child and a new baby, and thought, well, what am I going to do? And I really had not thought about working for anyone else, just having some independence to do what I wanted to do for my family and for myself. So in 1980, I started a company called House Calls. That was a maid service. And I was 22 years old and thought, let's just get this going. So I didn't think anything of it. We had, within a couple of years, 55 employees, and we serviced a lot of regular house cleaning needs and expanded it to get into carpet cleaning and some other things that we did along the way, and including renovations and small renovations and painting and that kind of thing. And in 10 years had grown $1 million business where we were just under $1 million. And that was significant, but I was really bored with it. So after 10 years, we sold it. So and it's funny because people talk about being an entrepreneur. It is not something that most entrepreneurs think about or put a label on or tag it. They just do things. So I sold it and then thought, what am I going to do now? And started a couple of other businesses over the next 10 years. went from, that was executive office suites to some biomedical products and a partner down in Boston. And so we kind of went in that direction for a few years.
So Maria, you're 32 at this point when you sold did I get that right? You
Yes.
were 22 when you started, you're
Yes.
32
Yes.
and you're sold.
Yeah.
What was there an inkling of sitting back for a little bit? Was that something you did?
Oh, no, it was
No?
not. I was going to become a really good mom, and that lasted about 6 months. I had 2 children who were young at the time,
Yeah.
and the youngest, who was about 6, said, I had organized pretty much everything in life. So I got up and got cleaned up and everyone out to school, and the house was tidy and neat. And I sat down and it was 9:15, and I thought, what am I going to do? So after 6 months of organizing the living daylights out of my children, the youngest said, Mom, you are going to start another business, aren't you? And I think that they'd had enough of me doing so much at home with them and after school and scheduling this and that. So I thought, I've got to do something else. So that was when we moved towards what are we going to do? And then there were other things in the next 10 years that were small, medium, sold, closed up, nothing that was, you either take a chance on it, you like it, real estate, whatever the case may be. So then you move on with it. So in 2000, actually, 2001, I had colleagues in another business in Boston and another one in New Jersey. And the one in Boston called me one day and said, I was just golfing with a guy. And he said, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to turn business away because we don't know how to service it. We don't have enough people. And so my friend, who was a lawyer from Boston, said, oh, just hold on a second. Maybe we can help you out. So he called me on Monday and I said, what is it that they do? And he said it was medical transcription. And I said, what's that? So I didn't even know what it was. So fast forward, I did at that time have a small a consulting firm. And I said, leave it with me and let's take a look at it. So we did some market work on it, your regular SWOT analysis, take a look at competition and opportunity and risk, and said, let's go look at this. So we moved in that direction, and that was early 2021. By September of 2021, we had gone to a trade show and selling our wares with no references, no experience, no anything, but a good idea that we could fit into this trade show. So we went to the trade show and met some people there, and I talked to them afterwards, and they said, well, we'll see. And it was an international trade show for transcription, medical and health information. So I talked to them a couple of days later. They called and said, we've got an awful lot of work here. And they were from Atlanta and said, we can talk about outsourcing some of our work to you. So we said, great. So that's how we started. We actually started doing outsourced work from an American company is how we started. And that was it. We just, hit the ground running and ran as fast as we could to do as much as we could.
Wow.
So much stuff there. I mean, I feel like I've just sat through 2 MBAs in the last 10 minutes.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's unbelievable, Maria. One thing that jumps off the page for me is you must have an incredibly high tolerance for risk. You're taking risk at a point when your family is growing. There's a lot of things swirling around. Most people would be consumed by the family dynamics alone when your kids are young and getting them up. What was it about you? Did that come from your mom who was willing to start these businesses back in the 60s, that tolerance for risk and just saying, I can do this. I know that I can do it. Explain that to me a little bit.
I think that the main thing with with risk is to make sure that you've got a calculated risk, that you give a good risk analysis. So if we were going to move into something, I had two partners at that time. So we shared the risk with three. We're labor industry, so we're selling our services. So
Right.
the risk is not bricks and mortar. We have a remote workforce that works everywhere. I don't need to supply that. So our cost to enter was fairly low. And that was a big part of it. As far as being able to do it, I've never questioned my ability to do something. If I've calculated the risk and I know what the risk is going to be, then fear is never a question at all. It's a matter of, let's go do this and just do it. And if there's a need, if there's a demand, if I think that I can fill that demand, then we just need to figure out how to get there. So yeah, I never feared that. And I still, so, I've been an entrepreneur for over 40 years. And my greatest thing is that I say to people to young people, especially, who say, well, I don't think I could. That, the worst thing that you can do is to be 60, 70 years old, 80 years old and say, I wonder how it would have changed had I done that, had I taken that step. And so, they say about entrepreneurs that they're usually jump out of an airplane and then hope that the chute works on the way down, or you'll figure it out. And that's kind of it, but you still want to have a chute. You still got to have that chute, where your boundaries are and what's going to be successful or not. We hire for our accounts as we need accounts. So if you lose an account, then you don't have that account anymore, but that's not, it's not really of relevance, because people are contractually on our team. So that's kind of it. So we actually, one of the most important things about any business is to have a reference. Do they do a good job? How's that going to work for us? Are you sure that they can bring what they say they can? And in our world, people are making decisions in hospitals that are going to be $1 million a year, and they can't just take a risk on it. So when we did the outsource work for another company, we did a very good job. And I asked the customers, because we did have a relationship with the customer, and I asked them if, you are the customer of this company, but would we be able to use you as a reference for the work we've performed? Absolutely, yes. And so we built it on references of customers that we did not have at the time. Right. So that was it. They were happy with it. We weren't going to steal their customer, but we could use them as a reference, which was great. Such
an important piece of advice, right? To build that reference, that list, so that people can go back and say, how do they perform? And it's absolutely vital. But I still find it fascinating that guys on a golf course in Boston calls you and says, there's an opportunity. Yeah. Your first thing was, okay, let's have a look at it. But what is it exactly we're doing? Like that's a fairly technical field, medical transcription, and a fairly big nut to crack into the medical systems, and it didn't seem to phase you.
No, it didn't phase us at all. I just had, I suppose it's like, I didn't know what I didn't know. When you're young, you don't know what you don't know. So we just went into that. So, and that was it. So within 12 months, I bought out my partners, and then I was the only one. So it was, then I better get good at what I can't do and get good really fast. So that was where we went with that.
So tell me about the business. Well, what exactly do you do?
So we provide transcription of dictation. We also provide dictation equipment and technology for hospitals. So if you owned a hospital or a clinic, or we have a small physician practice group, we would install our technology, which we use third party, because we don't we don't have our own. We didn't build that, and that would be literally cost prohibitive to do that. So we use technology that is 3M technology, and we have an installation team. So the implementation team installs it in a hospital. The dictation, that is done every single day in a hospital, some in large facilities, 5, 6, 7,000 reports a day. They are routed through the dictation system. They come to our transcription platform, and then they're auto routed to our transcriptionists who are everywhere in Canada, US, a couple in New Zealand, and we have a small team in India. And so it's routed to them. They're on a schedule assigned to an account, and we turn around everything that we do every single day. So that's so we're doing somewhere in the vicinity of about everything we do is in lines or minutes. So we're doing in the vicinity about 6 million lines a month. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of scheduling and oversight, and that works well for us. So once we started that, and the accuracy is important. So if you're going to do medical transcription and your accuracy is required to be 98% in the industry, then we have to deliver 99%. So across the board, we deliver 99.6% accuracy on everything that we do. So it's medical terminology, drugs, everything has to be perfect. We then found it to be much an easier leap to move into legal and corporate work. If we could do a hospital, we could easily do the rest. So a few years later, then we moved to legal and corporate work, which is still a smaller part of our business, but it's pretty good. Right now, we are now branching out into law enforcement. And so that's kind of on the job, reports with law enforcement teams across North America. And that has its challenges and that are a little new to us right now. And we're also starting another company, which is a separate piece to this, but also will take into consideration what we're doing with corporate and legal. So we're trying to fine tune it a little bit to ease up on the legal, on the labor part rather, and move to more greater use of technology.
Maria, I'm so happy you're on with us because you're someone who, we really I just love listening to you. It's incredible what you're doing. I'm going to show my ignorance now. I'm trying to understand. I don't know enough about how a hospital works, but what you're telling me just, and tell me, Jerry, you're completely off base, but You're talking about medical professionals, I guess, in the medical world are writing things down and you're transcribing that. What are we, just explain, I'm missing something because I'm thinking, shouldn't everything be digital now?
Correct.
I'm showing my ignorance now, right?
No, that's fine. That's fine. So what happens in a hospital is that you see a physician and the physician will pick up what you look at as a phone in office or on the wall wherever. And that physician logs in with a specific user ID to that dictation system and says, just saw Jerry Carew. He is a 25-year-old male. He is in for this and this, and et cetera, et cetera. And here's the report that we're doing on Jerry Carew. So that syncs up with your health record in the hospital's electronic health record. That it comes to us, and 95% of what we do now is speech recognition, where we use a draft. So we're getting a speech piece, and that comes to us for edit. And then any edits are done to make sure that the the specific data in your record matches what the doc has dictated, specific work type is there, that the drugs that he is actually saying are what he means or she means to say. So all of that is done and it's edited and it's back in your report right away. So when we turn those reports around every day, what we did find was even 10 years ago, 12 years ago in Canada, especially where we have not-for-profit medicine, you would actually find that health records were going to be dictated and they would sit there because it was an in-house team and there was so much work going on. So if you actually would sit there and maybe the reports weren't completed and back in your in your health record for 2 weeks, for 5 weeks, for 10 weeks at some facilities. Yeah. So if you are sick and you come into emergency and you have those 10 tests done that need to be done, including blood work and x-rays and whatever else, then that doc dictates on Alan or Jerry coming in. If you're discharged a couple of days later and then you're out one day and feel ill again and you go back into hospital, it's fine that the doc dictated it. If it is not transcribed, it's not there for them to see. So when it comes to cost saving, well, I always say is where do you think that's going to go except to do those 10 tests all over again? That is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So the cost is high. So all hospitals, as a rule, turn around in 24 hours. And we turn everything around 24 hours. Some reports are due in 2, some are 3. Some are 10, 12, whatever the case may be, relative and specific to that health report, that work type. But for the most part, the entire facility turns around in 24 hours. And that's the way it has to be in order to keep a hospital running properly.
That is a huge volume of work and
it's a lot.
And vital work. A lot of moving parts there, Maria. Tell me,
yes.
You must stay up at night worrying about data security and crypto security.
Yes. We do. That is a big concern now, like everyone. We're going through an exercise right now with the Cybersecurity Canada on a credentialing that's updated for us. Every facility wants to know how you're going to keep our data safe, how you're going to keep it secure. It does get down to if there's always somebody who has bad intentions, and if they have bad intentions, you can't stop somebody from doing that. It's impossible. Yeah. We rely on people to do things honorably, to work in their profession honorably, and to do the job. And that's really key for us. So for someone to we can't guarantee it. We have several customers now who had malware in their facility. They own the technology. We don't always bring the technology with us. Sometimes we're just labor on it, and they own the technology. And for us, it was a huge leap to say, we can put you on ours and we're going to get you to dictate over here so the hospital keeps running. But there's no guarantee. And so cybersecurity is a great concern for us right now. That's key for us.
It's got to be huge. I mean, particularly the data that you're dealing with, right? I mean, it's important stuff. But there must be predictive software packages out there that predict what might happen with so many people accessing the files over and over. That must exist now for you.
The hackers are so good. Malware is so good. Cyber hackers are just incredible. So the technology that we use, our third-party vendor, they actually have quarterly, like an impact assessment, a PET test that does. So they actually pay a legitimate hacking company to find a way into their system. Okay. So those things, that's pretty normal now to do that. That's the only way they can stay on top of it. They're huge companies. They cannot have an issue. So that's what they do. They actually hire someone who's going to break into their system as best they can, find where the holes are, where the gaps are, and then move ahead with that. So that's pretty much it. We control our end of things as far as we can, as best we can, with audit trails and normal multiple password access points, and they're assigned to one account. There's no retention of documents on the system. They log in through the system through our secure like firewall or VPN through us to a system. And when they're in their little silo of what they can do to provide that service. And then as soon as they're out of it, it's gone back to the hospital and they're disabled. So it's a huge piece of our work that we're doing now. So we've got to do it very well. But it certainly has made us appreciate every step along the way. Everybody gets it, that everybody in our company fully understands how important it is for us to do this job well. There are no gaps. There are no questions there are no stupid questions. Ask the question, make sure that we're doing it correctly. And then we just have oversight on a regular basis. So that's it. So for us to move into legal and corporate, we're well trained and well skilled to do that. It's been a big part of it.
Yeah,
sure.
It's like you started at the hardest, and now you're going to
Yes.
work, right? Because
Yes, exactly.
The medical one would be the gold standard, and then
Right.
everything else. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Right.
You obviously have a lot of people working with you and for you. Some, I'm assuming, contractually based on the contract that you get, but you must have a core team as well. You have a core team of people that manage the day-to-day?
Yeah, we have a core team, and our work is 24/7, so it doesn't stop. It never stops. And we follow the sun. So our team starts on the East Coast here with the office here, and earlier than that. And then we follow the sun from right across the country to make sure we can keep up with the volume on various hospitals. So we do work from coast to coast in Canada and down the eastern seaboard of the US, from Maine to Florida. And we have had some success in recent months now of interest from the Southwest. So now we've signed a couple of agreements in Nevada and Colorado. And the Southwest seems to be pretty active for us as well right now. So that's good. It's good for us.
Tell me about the team. Good. Tell me about some of the people on your team. Must be a great group.
Well, and they're everywhere. So we have our admin team who's in St. John's, and they're basically our management team. Our operations management team is scattered everywhere. So they're throughout Canada and the US. And they just do a great job for us. Our team lead we have a team lead in Illinois, and then another operations manager in Washington State. So they're terrific at what they do. They all have a tremendous amount of experience in our industry and working for large companies who provide this service. So they're really, really good at customer service, and they get it. They get it. And our transcriptionists, or they're now called medical language specialists, actually, are everywhere in Canada and the US, and they are all remote and they work from home. And for many of them, they have been on the same account with us for 10 years, 15 years. They like what they do, and they like the flexibility it gives them to choose a schedule and do as they wish.
It's interesting, Maria, listening to the structure of your company. Many companies during COVID kind of moved to a model that you had already been existing under. So you must find some of the articles about that kind of interesting to read, given your experience with it.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. And that was jumping the gun, if I can recall that, from last March in 2020. I thought, hey, this is not going to make any difference to us. Hospitals are going to keep going. We're going to keep working. Nothing is going to change. We have a remote workforce. This is great. And then COVID suddenly happened, and every customer we had stopped having anyone in hospital that was not critical need. And we literally stopped for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then 6 weeks, and then it started coming back again. So it was key for us in those days to keep our team engaged. And so we had several webinars. We would have a group of 50 on at a time, and then we talk to them about, here's the situation out there. Please know that we're going to try to work through this. If you have concerns, if you want to take time off with your family now, this is a good time to do it, because some of our team really need that paycheck. So if you want to do that right now, that's a good thing. And people who didn't have a paycheck or weren't getting their full complement, then we paid more in those early days so that they had the same paycheck. So loyalty is a big thing. If you're going to keep somebody engaged from home, they're going to want to stay with this company because this company cares about them. So those things are really important to us. And, we had for that period of time, our revenue was virtually, cut it down by 60% or more for a short period of time, but then started bouncing back again. And we needed to keep those people secure so that they weren't going to feel that stress. We were going to be okay. So that was important for us during COVID. But it was surprising, Jerry, because I really didn't think it was going to be affected. And suddenly it was, here we are. As far as working from home, we don't travel as much like everybody. So that's been a bit of, you can't get in front of people to do it. And a lot of our markets, the US. So being in the US market, then they were all traveling still. They were still seeing people. They're still going to shows now, and we're not there. So I'm sure that we may miss out on some opportunities because of that. So if that's the only thing that we have to worry about right now, it's okay.
Yeah. Maria, are you still on the road making the deals? Do you still enjoy
Yes, the dog and pony show. Yes. So I don't really like it. I just do it and get used to doing it. That's all. My husband says that I'm probably the best one to close a deal. So I might as well, if I'm going to wonder what's going on, I might as well be there myself rather than second guess what someone else hasn't done.
It's funny. I've been in business development for 30 years, helping entrepreneurs succeed, of course. And Malin and I have a lot of stuff on the go ourselves now, but I understand that sentiment. I do. Yeah.
And why would your husband say you're good at closing the deal? What is it about your approach that makes that happen?
Well, I don't think that I would really say that out loud, the words that he used. Yeah. But he was, I think that he thinks that no one can sell it like you can. You know the business inside out. You know what you're going to promise. And you don't have someone else who we have hired many salespeople over the years. That salesperson may not have, other than the drive for commission, that salesperson may not have that ability to say, we can do this, and have somebody genuinely believe that we've got the ability to do this.
Right.
So I think that's it, that no one does that sell like that. Now there are, Jerry, to your point, that there are times that you need to step back and let someone handle it. I don't handle operations. That's not my strength. Certainly because I didn't know anything about it. So I don't handle operations. Someone else does that. A great team does that. But I think that for us, that it's hard to let go. A founder, as you know, founders are not really skilled at letting go sometimes and stepping back. Although I think I'm probably quite ready to step back a little bit from this and let someone else sit in this chair.
I want to go back a step there if I could, And you made a comment about when the volume of work reduced as the hospitals kind of shrunk the intake of patients, getting ready for COVID and stuff like that, you were faced with a decision to, lay off staff, hold staff. Many companies, big companies around the globe, immediately cut workforce. They immediately cut their workforce to try to close ranks, if you will. But you didn't take that approach. You took a different approach. You knew that the people relied on this. You knew other people needed it more than others, and you gave them the options to do it. Where did that come from? Where did that genuine desire to show your employees loyalty in order to get loyalty back from them? Where does that come from?
I think that's probably just how you're wired. We've done a lot of things. Early days, there was not a lot of revenue coming in, and there's not a lot of in it for me, for example, those real early days. And like everybody, you got your credit cards maxed out and whatnot. And in our industry, I have come to understand that many people who are working remotely in this job and many jobs rely on their paycheck week to week to week. There's no extra. There's no, if we just put half it away for vacation. That isn't there. And we needed to do something. So in the early days, there were times that somebody didn't get paid because they didn't submit something and they didn't have this or that. And that I would come to the office, I'd have to get somebody to help because I didn't know how to get a check from our accounting system. And I'd go to Western Union, I'd cash it, and I'd go to Western Union to deposit so it could go to Mary Jane, Alabama. It was no good popping a check in the mail. That didn't make any sense. She needed the money right away. So if we do that, so it takes an hour out of my day. That's okay. That's okay. So if we know that, if we understand that people need to be cared for and cared about, then I think that tone and that empathy spreads across the company in everything that they do in their jobs. When there's extra work that drops in on some account and you say, I know it's going to be Labor Day weekend, but I'm looking for extra help on this account now because they just did a big dump and it's up 20%. And people step up and not everyone, but most people step up. And I think that you've got to live like that. And I couldn't live. Nothing was taking food off my table. I could not go home knowing that we had cut our workforce and that some of them would really struggle through this, really, really struggle. That wasn't in the cards. So, it wasn't a really big decision. It was, how much are we going to lose? How are we going to maneuver our way around this and we didn't know how long. How long are we going to do this maneuver around this? And what can we do so that people can make it through? And that was it.
You say it's so easy, but what you're describing there is genuine leadership, right? What you're describing there is a person who's genuinely concerned for the people that work for you, with you. I mean, the story of picking up the check, going to Western Union, I know it only takes an hour out of your day, but many people wouldn't do it. They'd go out to supper with their families. I'll get to it Monday. Well, Monday means a great deal to the person on the other end waiting for the Western Union check. And you understood that. And I think, there's no doubt in my mind, that's why you're so successful in business. So sounds like you got a remarkable offering, a remarkable company doing great work, vital work, to be quite honest with you. What's over the horizon? What are you looking at next?
So, having someone else in the seat is not out of the question. As CEO, that's an option, and it's on the table right now. So that would be a good thing. And then going forward, as I said, we're starting another company, which we're halfway down the trail, so we're probably within 6 or 8 weeks of a go live on that, and that is going to pivot off what we're doing right now with the ability to greater use technology. So this stemmed from an idea that just happened during COVID over the last 6 months, and I got some of my people around the table and said, "So what do you think of this?" And they said, "What?" I said, "No, think about it. Just think it through for a minute. You only get a minute to talk about this, and a minute and I want your response in a minute." So we talked about it, and they said, I think it could work. So that's it. So we just laid out some bullet points and, what's the competition look like, how different it was going to be, and some of those things. So for us, it'll be soon. So I'll let you know when that goes live and how that is going to go. We've had some interest in it from customers that we currently have. So in corporate customers. And so this is, I think this is a natural move on that. We'll see.
Well, I won't ask you to reveal in case there's
not yet.
No, and fair enough. Yeah. How about the kids? Have they been bitten by this entrepreneurial spirit?
No. I'm afraid not. So I can say that we don't have any children. So we have a blended family of 5. And no one has the bite for this at all. Not at all. They say, thanks a lot, Mom. We're good. So one of my daughters, my daughter works for me, and she's on the West Coast in Victoria. So that's been tremendous. I never thought she would come to work for us, but it's so great to have her as a resource and as a confidant, and to go over things that we actually talk about. And she handles a lot of things on the West Coast. So she's mostly does our website, business analysis, search engine optimization, and marketing things come her way. So she's doing a great job of that. So I contribute the Southwest checkoff points over the last couple of months specifically to her. It's done a great job.
Victoria, Alan, you and I know Victoria very well from our Navy days.
Oh yeah,
yes, I would say.
Yeah. So your daughter did your current website, the one that I looked at just earlier?
No, she did. She doesn't do. She's not web design, but she manages that marketing team and the website team, and so she's full on into the other company now. And I've sort of and that has a whole e-commerce piece to it, which is interesting. So we'll see where that goes.
Maria, I got to ask you this: what do you do to relax? I hear you just see. I don't know how. Like, there's only so much time in a day, and what you've accomplished and continue to do. It's a question I don't normally ask, but I got to ask you: what do you do to relax?
I'm not really good at that. I do try, and I'm not particularly good at it. But for relaxing for me would be my gardening and cooking. I love to cook and not bake, but I love to cook. And I think that we had estimated one time, this is how when you need to keep thinking, we had estimated one time that we had over 1,200 dinner parties. So I thought, okay, that's all right. Now that's a lot of idle time, but we have, we're pretty busy. We have 5 children and 9 grandchildren. So it's, for us, it's busy. We like to travel a lot. It has been awful this past 18 months, just trying to do something else. But I'm pretty relaxed when, sometimes
your garden must be looking great.
It was, yeah, it's not bad. Actually, it's coming along. We had a major tear up last year, so now I'm getting it back together again. So I'm liking that. But yeah, we just like to. I do have lots of downtime. Well, not lots, but I do enjoy that. My time in the morning, I'm an early riser, so I'm up at 5:30, and so 5:30 to 7 is my time. And so I'll get a good walk in and do some reading that, there's always a good book, that a fiction, and then there's always a strategy book or a business book that I'm reading. So if I can get some things in to motivate me and get me interested in some other things, then, spreading on, aligning your strategy and sales, or, scaling on some different level, then those things are of interest. Yeah.
Yeah, I like business. Sorry, Alan. I like business biographies. Are there any business people, men or women, that you look up to?
I look up to a lot of them because I think it takes great courage, win or lose. Whether you're successful or you're not, I think that's a big part of it. So, business biographies. I'm not really. I would think that I like people who have a social conscience, that have empathy, that they realize that you're managing your people. So, like on marketing, Seth Grobin, and then Simon Sinek. He's a great motivator as well. I don't think he's, I've read books that are any different than other things, but I think that's a good part of it there. So what do you like, Jerry? Are you fond of?
It's funny. I've read The Snowball. I actually keep some of the books that I love the most right here. The Snowball, about Warren Buffett. Just find him fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I tell you though, I read two books. One on Elon Musk, and the other one on Steve Jobs. And the thing that bothers me the most about the two of those gentlemen, despite the fact they're incredibly successful, is how they seem to treat their employees. And Alan and I have talked about leadership, and I know we could go on for another hour about this. And listening to you, Maria, is nice, and it feels good, because I think about success. I mean, ultimately, I've been a business development guy on commission for 30 years. I understand payroll needs to be met. That's when the pressure mounts. But there's definitely a respectful way to go about this. And in reading those two books, I'm like, good God, do people need to treat other people that way? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think that's, I don't think it's necessary. I think that I've seen on larger scale, and I'm sure that both of them are driven visionaries, see something that none of us can ever see, and therefore perhaps there's an impatience there. Attention deficit is not off the books for a lot of people who are that kind of visionary and entrepreneur, and they just see a mission. It's just a one-track mission. But it's for us, for me, I think that you've got to go home at night. You've got to park it at the door and try, unless there are times that that's not successful. I just go home and rant. It's good that the kids are all grown now. That helps. So you've got to go home, and at the end of the day, you've got to look in the mirror and say, did I do the right thing? Was my day done well? Did I affect anybody in a negative way? Did I do everything that I needed to do? So I think that's a big part of it.
It's funny, it's interesting. At one point I had 27 sales reps, and there was another industry I had 4. And I tell you that just the industry that I was in with 4 sales reps was harder. Someone said to me one time, nobody gets up in the morning hoping to do a bad job. But it's funny, one individual that I was
Right.
working with was not doing a great job. And the person above me was fired them. And it's like, it bugged me a lot. And, thankfully I'm no longer in that industry, but it's not the way that I do things. And, over 30 years, it was, it was success. But I also think, and I'm kind of revealing a little bit about my own management strategy, I was sometimes a little bit too easygoing, so I was struggling. I was always on that line. So for you as an entrepreneur, someone with 40 years, do you ever feel like you're too much one way and not the other? Or do you ever second guess yourself?
Yes, yes. There's always second guessing. You second guess yourself. We always try, if we have someone struggling, we try to work with that person and we try to get them the coaching, and we give them more coaching and more benefit of the doubt and more resources that we add to make things easier. And if we've had someone who's not performing, then you sometimes know the very first time that you speak with them about something that they may not have the ability to do this, that it's not a good fit. So very often we've put a lot of resources / money into moving a manager of in a particular job forward, and we'll work with them. And at the end of the day, I know after 6 months where this is going, but I do it. And sometimes I think I'm never going to learn, but I don't think I'd be happier if I did that, just cut and run. I think that you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I could have done it in 3 months and not 6. Maybe we're just beating it to death sometimes. But I think that for the most part, you give someone the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You just want to find out what's going on. Is there something wrong at home? Is there anything else that doesn't work for you right now? And sometimes they share it with you, and then you say, let's find something else. And we've done that before. Let's find a new job here with us. And we've actually found new jobs for people elsewhere.
Right.
And if I can get them in a better place, that's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I can't say it enough, but that's genuine leadership. Picking up on those social cues and helping somebody get to where they need to be and want to be, and talking them through that. I mean, that's not management. That's leadership. That's you're helping people along their path, wanting them to be as fulfilled as clearly you are. There must be the academic institutions and leadership groups. They must be clamoring after you to speak. Are they, to tell your story, to talk about your?
Well, I'm pretty low key, and, I'm not someone who looks for that spotlight in the community. So I just kind of run under the radar and just do my thing. And that's kind of it. So, sometimes there's a speaking gig somewhere, but, someone says, please come talk to us and tell us what you did. And that's okay. Too. So to share it, I've spoken at my grandson's high school, and that was really good. So, teenagers in high school are a challenge sometimes, to get their attention if you're speaking to them in that setting. And so it was just after a few minutes, I was asked, anybody here have a parent who owns a business? Well, yeah. Anybody here ever have a lemonade stand? Yeah. Did anybody here ever mow lawns for $20? Yes. Well, there you go. So that's what started the conversation. So it's not, it's not, we sometimes make it out to be more than it is. It isn't. This is not rocket science. We're not curing cancer, although some entrepreneurs are. We can look at this and say, I think I'd like to, and I've thought about do it. Take a look at it and do it. So that's kind of it.
Well, Maria, a fascinating conversation today. And I've never experienced somebody who's had so much success in business and who's running, a very, very complex operation, providing vital services, so relaxed and talking about it with such ease. It's really a wonderful thing to see. We often ask our guests to leave the audience with one small piece of advice. What would that be from somebody who's had a great journey like you? What would that piece of advice be?
Okay. Well, I think that the thing for me is that if you have an idea for something, to take a calculated risk. It's, take the risk. And if you're not going to take the chance on doing something, if you want to do something, then don't find yourself when you're 80 years old saying, I wish I had, or I wonder if I had. Because if you try and it doesn't work out, so what? What difference does it make? It's a corporate entity. It's a business. It's something that you tried. If you're not going to lose your house, your home, your family, and everything, and your soul, then it's okay. Just try it. But don't take a risk that is just haphazard. You've got to have a smart risk. Be smart at doing that. Decide what it is that you're going to do. So if you can take a venture and say, I think it can make it work, and you can figure out who your competition is, how you're going to get from A to B, and if there's any future in it for you, or it's a flash in the pan only for the month of September business, then you're going to be fine. But if you can't make those decisions, if you're haphazard about it and going to run into something that, I like to cook. Well, I wouldn't open a restaurant because I like to cook. I like to cook, but I don't want to work past 9 o'clock. I go to bed 9:30, for heaven's sake. So that wouldn't work for a restaurant. So that would be a silly thing for me to run off, say, well, you're a really good cook, so let's just do this. The two don't necessarily coincide, but take a chance, take the opportunity. Don't miss an opportunity, but just be smart about your risk analysis. Just be smart about it and do it. That's all. It's done. It's not always for the money. It's people often think, oh, it's everybody in business has so much money and they all have money. They don't have money, but they choose a life that they want to live. They choose how they want to live. They choose something that keeps them in control of what goes on in their days. And that would be the biggest thing for me.
That's amazing. Jerry, your thoughts on that?
Well, I always joke I can't do a podcast without a pen in my hand. I've got a page and a half written down here. This, to me, is the essence of what business is all about. To your point, Maria, living the life you want to live. I personally have been a semipreneur with a small little business on the side for 30 years. Now, that little small business has served me extremely well. However, I've always served someone else. And it's funny, actually, Jeff Sterling, who you probably knew, who I organized a meeting one time at Munn, said to me, he said, I don't understand why anyone would work for 10% of their 100% effort. So, and it stuck with me for 30 years because I was in university when he came to speak. And then I went out, became a sales professional, putting in 100%, but getting 10%. So the numbers to me have always bothered me in the back of my head. Like, okay, well, why don't I just do this myself? So, Alan and I are surrounded now by like-minded individuals. And I think Newfoundland needs more people like yourself. So smart risk, choose a life that you want to live. I'm at the stage of my life, if it's 30 degrees, I want to go and hit a little white ball down the fairway. The 2 times a summer that it is 30 degrees, right? So anyway,
exactly.
I'm rambling, but I just want to say that I've been really, really inspired by your story, and I appreciate you coming on. And, someone like yourself who's, you say, is low key, I think you're going to inspire some entrepreneurs, and Newfoundland needs more of that.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with you. And I hope that that you guys are inspiring people all the time to reach out and do something. And we're not boxed in by doing it in our own backyards. We can do anything that you can dream of, you can do now. and reach out and do it. And those opportunities are everywhere. So I thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for having me today. It was great. It was great.
Well, another wonderful edition of Gale Force Wins. I love talking to entrepreneurs, but I really like talking to entrepreneurs that are genuine leaders. And that's what we heard here today. Here's a person who sees a risk, calculates a risk, not afraid to take a chance. I love the expression, you don't want to hit 80 and wonder what if I had taken that chance? How would have my life changed? I love that approach in life. I love everything that we talked about here today. And I really enjoyed the conversation around how we treat those people that we work with and people that work for us as we go about our journey, because that's so important if we're going to make this world a better place, is that we're connected with one another and that we provide support to one another, especially when they need it. And that's so needed in the world today. So much good things, so many amazing things happening in Newfoundland. And this is just another wonderful example of it. I always like to leave the audience with my own piece of advice, and that is quite simply, and I mean it, the world needs more Maria French. So thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Thank you for tuning in to Gale Force Wins. That's Gale Force Wins, WINS.com.